Help me reach 6,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I still remember the way her voice cracked when she said it. Not from guilt, not from sorrow, just from exhaustion. I regret every day with you. The words slipped out so effortlessly, like she'd been rehearsing them for months. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The living room seemed smaller, the walls pressing closer as if they, too, wanted to witness the wreckage. We'd been together for 8 years, married for 5. In that time, I thought we'd built something unbreakable, two people bound by history, not just vows. But that night, I realized history can be rewritten with a single sentence. It started small, like most endings do. Late replies to messages. Eyes that didn't meet mine when she laughed. Her phone always face down, notifications turned off. When I asked, she said she just needed space. Space, I gave her plenty. But it wasn't space she wanted, it was distance. Emotional, deliberate distance. Still, I held on. I thought love meant patience, that every marriage went through phases. I cooked her favorite dinners, left small notes on the fridge, even tried to plan a weekend trip to rekindle whatever was dying between us. She brushed it off with a cold smile. I'm too tired for all this, she said. Tired of what? Of me? I didn't ask. Maybe I didn't want to hear the answer. One Sunday evening, as we sat in silence, I reached for her hand. She flinched, just slightly, but enough for me to feel it like a slap. I asked her, "Are we okay?" She sighed, eyes still glued to the TV. You always ask that. Maybe that's the problem. That's when I realized she wasn't just slipping away. She was already gone. I tried to remember when she last smiled at me without faking it. When she last touched me without obligation. Nothing came to mind. Just fragments of old laughter and hollow words we once meant. The night she said it, the night everything ended, wasn't loud or dramatic. There was no shouting, no broken glass. Just the two of us, standing in the quiet wreckage of what used to be love. She came home late, hair damp from the rain, eyes tired. I asked if she'd eaten. She said yes. I asked how work was. She said fine. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. I regret every day with you. No warning, no build-up, just that. My heart stopped. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. But her face, calm, almost relieved, told me I hadn't. Every day, I asked quietly. She didn't flinch. Every single one. You know that feeling when something inside you shatters, but no one else can hear it? That was me. My chest felt heavy, my throat dry, but my mind was strangely clear. I glanced down at my hand, at the ring I'd worn since the day I promised her forever. I remembered slipping it on her finger, the way she'd smiled through tears. I remembered how we'd laughed about growing old together. Now all that meant nothing, so I took the ring off slowly, my fingers trembling. I looked at her one last time, and before she could speak, I tossed the ring across the room. It hit the floor with a dull metallic sound that seemed to echo far longer than it should have. Then let this be the last one, I said. Her face froze, her mouth parting slightly as if she wanted to take it back. But she didn't. For the first time in months, I felt free. Broken, yes, but free. She turned away, muttering something about needing air. I just stood there, staring at the ring glinting faintly under the dim light. Funny how something that once symbolized eternity could lose all its meaning in a single moment. That night, I packed a small bag. Not much, just enough to leave quietly. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want an explanation. I left my keys on the counter and walked out. The cold air hit my face as I stepped into the night. The city lights blurred through the drizzle, and I felt a strange calm wash over me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from her, maybe, but I didn't look. As I walked toward my car, I thought about all the moments I'd ignored. The missed calls, the late nights, the fading warmth. They weren't signs I'd missed. They were warnings I'd refused to see. Sometimes love doesn't end with betrayal or lies. Sometimes it ends quietly, with words that can't be taken back. And that night, when I drove away from the house we'd called home, I realized something else. Regret is contagious. She regretted the days with me, but soon enough, she'd regret the way it ended too. Because endings like this, they never stay one-sided. I drove until the city disappeared behind me, until the streetlights turned into shadows and the rain softened into mist. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't go back. The silence in the car felt heavier than her words. Every red light reflected memories I didn't want to see. Her smile, our laughter. That first night we moved into our apartment. I pulled into an old diner off the highway, the kind that never closes. The waitress poured coffee without asking, and I stared at the steam curling above the cup. For years, I'd imagined us sitting somewhere like this when we were old, her teasing me for drinking too much coffee, me pretending not to hear. Now it was just me. I scrolled through my phone, past photos I didn't have the strength to delete. Our anniversary trip, her sleepy face in the morning, the way she'd squeeze my hand in crowded places. Each image was a reminder of something that had died slowly while I was too busy trying to keep it alive. I didn't cry. Maybe because I'd been grieving long before that night. Maybe because when love ends, the tears dry up long before the goodbye. For the next few weeks, I stayed with a friend, Adam. He didn't ask much, just handed me a beer and said, "When you're ready." That was all I needed. I worked during the day, avoided home in the evenings, and learned to exist in quiet rooms. Sometimes, though, the quiet gets too loud. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with her voice in my head, those same 7 words echoing like a curse. "I regret every day with you." But as the days passed, I started to hear something else too. A different voice, one that sounded like my own. It whispered, "You did your best." One morning, I went back to the house. Not to see her, just to collect a few things I'd left behind. The front door was unlocked. The air inside felt cold, unfamiliar. Half the furniture was gone. The walls were bare where our photos used to hang. On the kitchen counter, there was a note in her handwriting. I almost didn't read it. I didn't want to reopen something that had already been closed. But curiosity has a cruel way of surviving heartbreak. It said, "You didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. I was angry at myself, not you." I read it twice. The words didn't sting, they just felt empty. Maybe because apologies, when they come too late, lose their meaning. She regretted saying it, but that didn't erase the fact that she had. I left the note where it was. I didn't take it with me. Over time, I stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering if she missed me. I realized I wasn't healing to get her back. I was healing to remember who I was before her regret defined me. Months later, I ran into her at a grocery store. Her hair was shorter, her smile thinner. She looked at me like she didn't expect to see me standing there, calm, steady. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," I replied. There was an awkward silence between us. Not hateful, just hollow. "You look good," she said after a moment. "Thanks," I answered, and meant it. I could see she wanted to say more. Maybe to ask how I'd been, maybe to tell me she was sorry again. But she didn't. She just nodded and walked away, her footsteps fading behind me. As I watched her leave, I realized something. I no longer felt the urge to fix what had broken. I didn't need closure from her. I already had it the night I threw the ring. That act, impulsive as it was, became a symbol of release. It wasn't just the end of us. It was the start of me. I began traveling more, meeting new people, learning how to live without defining every joy or sorrow through someone else. There were nights I still thought about her, but the memories no longer hurt. They were just stories now, moments that shaped me but didn't own me. One evening, months later, I found myself back near that diner. I walked in, ordered coffee again, and sat by the same window. The waitress recognized me. "Haven't seen you in a while," she said with a smile. "Yeah," I replied. "It's been a long year." As I sipped the coffee, I caught my reflection in the glass. There was a quiet strength in my eyes, something I hadn't noticed before. The kind that comes only after you've lost everything you thought you couldn't live without, and realized you still can. If you'd told me back then that her words would set me free, I would have laughed in disbelief. But maybe that's what heartbreak really does. It strips you bare, forces you to rebuild from the ruins. Love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let go, even if it means walking away from the person you once called home. So when I think back to that night, the rain, the ring, her voice echoing through the quiet, I don't feel pain anymore. I feel gratitude, because that was the night I stopped chasing someone else's happiness and started finding my own. And if she ever wonders whether I regret the years we had, I hope she knows the truth. I don't. Not because they were perfect, but because they taught me how much I'm worth when someone tells me I'm not.